Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, David here, and welcome back to another video. This one is rumor territory, okay, so nothing's confirmed in this video. That being said, the source is very reliable, so whenever I do an Atlas News episode and I talk about a leak or a rumor, I'm always going to make sure it's reliable or it's from a reliable source, and that's the case here. So we'll get into that. A lot of people are expecting a Nintendo Direct, myself included. We were expecting a Direct in June, it didn't happen. Most leakers, including Nate the Hate, which is like the reliable Nintendo leaker at the moment, the guy who predicted the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal date, like precisely that guy, he said there was going to be a Direct in July, and apparently it's looking like it's going to be end of July / next week or this upcoming week, which I'll try and stream here on the channel as much as possible. Apparently this Nintendo Direct is going to have a heavy focus on third party. That's what Nate the Hate said during his latest podcast. Heavy third party support for Switch 2 makes a lot of sense. Apparently Nintendo, being the console manufacturer for Switch, they have some sort of, not embargo, but they have some sort of, well, yeah, I would think embargo, where the devs who received a dev kit and have games planned for Switch 2, they are to reveal their games during that specific Nintendo Direct and not beforehand, which would be why we saw shows like Summer Games Fest have basically nothing in terms of Switch 2 ports. Same thing for like the Xbox Game Showcase, a bunch of PlayStation logos in there, no Switch 2. Apparently a bunch of these games are locked from announcement because of that Nintendo Direct which is coming. It makes a lot of sense. All Switch 2 games that are unreleased, that are officially announced, are either games that are also getting Switch 1 versions, like for example FF Tactics, the remastered that's coming out I think in September, or the Dragon Quest 1+2 HD 2D, you know? These style of games, publishers can announce them because they're also getting Switch 1 versions. Games that aren't getting Switch 1 versions, we're wondering where they are, right? And here we are with today's rumor. Persona 3 Reload, apparently coming to Switch 2. Before we get into the swing of what that rumor is and the swing of things, Persona 3 Reload coming to Switch 2 makes all the sense in the world to me, you know? It makes a lot of sense. I kept saying there's 3 games that aren't on Switch that I think could happen on Switch 2. And when it comes to most likely to least likely, the most likely to me was Metaphor ReFantazio, which we'll get back to that at the end of the video. Second was Persona 3 Reload, and third was the least likely, by a large margin. I fully expect the first two to definitely show up at some point, and then the third one, maybe, is Soul Hackers 2. So the rumor here is from Lowly Low Lilo. I always have to read it because it's a strange username. But this person leaked a bunch of stuff. They leaked a bunch of Nintendo details, but especially third-party stuff. And even when you look at SEGA and ATLUS specifically, back in the day, they were talking about P3 Remake before Reload was announced. They did the same thing for P4 Revival. They kept talking about a P4 Remake. Like in April of this year, they said, like, you know, the P4 Remake's been in development for quite a bit. All that stuff. And then boom, it happened. But the most likely thing, or at least the most credibility that they gained, in my eyes, when it comes to SEGA and ATLUS leaks, is they leaked Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, the Switch 2 version of Yakuza 0. So that was a little harder to predict, in my opinion. I think a lot of people were expecting Yakuza Like a Dragon / Infinite Wealth, or maybe some other port, but to predict an expanded version of Yakuza 0, I think this gives them a lot of credibility. Take every rumor, no matter how likely it is, with a grain of salt. But this person was asked by someone on Resetera to give one of the games that they think is going to show up at the next Nintendo Direct, which Lowly Low said is heavily third-party focused. They were asked, tell us one of the games, and he basically responded with, I'll tell you, there are many obvious ports coming. For instance, keep reloading the news feed. Obviously referring to Persona 3 Reload. Now, I didn't need to see this to have a great idea that Persona 3 Reload is going to be announced at that specific Direct, or Metaphor ReFantazio, or you guys know me, and Metaphor ReFantazio and Persona 3 Reload. I think it's possible. I definitely think it's possible. At least they have nothing on their calendar for this year. They have nothing. So what if we get Persona 3 Reload, let's say in August, and we get Metaphor in November or something, or like Persona 3 Reload in September, Metaphor in December. It's possible. I wouldn't expect it. I'm fully expecting one of these two at least to show up during the next Direct. When it comes to Persona 3 Reload, there's definitely certain things that I would like to see from a release on Switch 2. The first thing would be a physical version, a real physical version. SEGA and ATLUS, when it comes to Switch 2, if you guys don't know, there is two things that they can do. There's three things. They can do a physical version, which is a 64 gigabytes little card, full game on it. If the game's bigger than that, you give it an additional download, which would be very surprising because once they do the necessary compromises to put it on Switch 2, file size should be very low, or at least lower than 64 gigabytes for both the games that I mentioned. So that is my number one wish. They can also sometimes do code in a box, which SEGA has not done yet, which is great. Or they can do the freaking game key card thing, which is like a little card with no data on it. It's basically a license to download and play the game when the card is in your system. So it's a digital version that can be sold, basically. Better than a digital version, but a lot worse than a physical version, in my opinion. So you have SEGA here doing all their Switch 2 ports with game key card things. That's what they do. That's what they did. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, that is a game key card thing, you know? Very big bummer, in my opinion. So I hope Persona 3 Reload goes the full physical route, which SEGA is doing for their Sonic Racing Crossworld things, or Crossroads. I'm sorry, I forgot the name. But they are doing a real physical version for that one. You love to see it, SEGA. That game was a wait for a sale and buy for me. I'm going to buy that bad boy day one now. I want to show SEGA that I want physical version on Switch 2, so I'm going to buy that thing day one since it's physical. So that's what I want for Reload. Second, I want the complete version. We have an expansion pass here on the PS5 and Xbox and PC version of Reload. We had to wait a whole last year, over a year, for a Switch version. Make it complete. Make it full price. I don't mind. It was like 20 on PS5 a few days ago. Okay? Make it full price, $60, physical version, everything on the cartridge, DLC, episode digest, everything on it. I'm there day one. That is what I would like to see from Persona 3 Reload on Switch 2. Do you expect ATLUS to show up at the next Nintendo Direct with a Persona 3 Reload port to Switch 2? I do at this point, or at least I expect them to do this one or Metaphor. One of the two seems very likely to me, and I fully expect it at this point. So stay tuned. If you'd like to watch the stream with me and the community here on the channel, hoping for ATLUS and RPG news, just consider subscribing, ring that little notification bell. As soon as I get confirmation that we're getting a Direct and that I can stream it, I'll share it with you guys on the community page. So please look forward to that. Thank you for watching, y'all. If you like the video, a thumbs up helps. Otherwise, you have a great weekend. Bye.